Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Pals Go to the Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, guys.
So today we're going to be talking about Frozen 2. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Olaf, and Sven leave Arendelle to travel to an ancient autumn-bound forest of an enchanted land. They set out to find the origin of Elsa's powers in order to save the kingdom. So like always, let's start off by going down the cast list. We have Christian Bale as Anna, Idina Menzel as Elsa, Josh Gad as Olaf, Jonathan Groff as Kristoff, Sterling Brown as Matthias, Evan Rachel Wood as Iduna, Alfred Molina as Agnar, Martha Plimpton as Valana, Jason Ritter as Ryder, Rachel Matthews as Honey Marin. So let's start off with my pros. Olaf, to me, was the glue that held the group together, not just for his jokes and everything, but he was breaking the fourth wall and making the adults in the audience laugh. The kids in the audience just laughed because it was Olaf. So to them, it was just hilarious because the snowman is talking. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was that it's kind of the same thing, but with a little spin. For example, we see Elsa, her outfit transforms throughout the movie. So it goes from her being in the kingdom wearing clothes to when she goes out to the woods, she has her, let's call it the snow crystal outfit. But then later, when she finds out that she's the fifth spirit, her outfit actually combines with different colors, really subtle, but at the same time, it's really different. For me, that was a transformation that was really done subtly, but at the same time it really stood out. The additional cast to me seemed like they mirrored the original cast in a certain regard, to a point that you kind of see it from both ways. The kingdom that has people who are not, I'm not going to call them sophisticated, but I'm just saying that they're more advanced, while there's people who live in the forest, sort of the native people, like let's talk about like Pocahontas or something. They're like the natives, Indians. So there's these two different parts that are divided, but at the same time, Elsa brings them together because she is the bridge. She is from both worlds. I think that stood out in a sense. And also the cast, who had minor roles, but at the same time, they have really well established careers. And for them to be in this presentation of Frozen 2 with minor speaking roles, it does speak a lot to how actors really care about cartoons now, or animated series, that they want to be involved, even if it's a minor role, because they know the reach that it has. Let's go on to talk about the songs. The songs, same thing. They're similar, but still different. For example, Into the Unknown, it's supposed to remind you of Let It Go. I think it's an octave higher or lower. I'm not really sure. I can't remember what it was, but it's similar to the point that it reminds you of Let It Go, but it's different, that stands out in your mind as a different song. We actually had new original songs from most of every single cast in duets, but the ones that stood out to me was Lost in the Woods, Show Yourself, and Into the Unknown. The reason two of the songs stood out for me was at the end of the post credits was played by Panic at the Disco, Into the Unknown, and then Weezer played Lost in the Woods. So with that, I'm going to go into my cons. I kind of had a few cons. One of the biggest cons was that some of the spirits were not fully explained, such as why is the fire a lizard and Gale has no shape, but the water is a horse. I would have wanted them to basically have a little more legend or story behind each of the spirits, instead of saying like the four spirits. Talk about them, like the spirit of fire, he embodied the lizard, it's a lizard symbol or something. Gale, I understand that people are going to be like, well, the wind is the wind, you never see it, but at the same time, water is water. It can take any shape, and why did it take the shape of a horse? They needed to explain this a little more, maybe a little story of the enchanted forest, and said in the enchanted forest live spirits, and go into dive a little back into the background. That would have made the movie a little better and enjoyable for me. And this is another one that's almost both on my pros and cons. It's the song, like I just mentioned, Lost in the Woods. It's a 80s power ballad song that Kristoff sings in the woods, where kids will not understand it because it'll go over their heads, because it has a bunch of 80 music video references, but adults will enjoy it because they'll basically see a lot of Meatloaf references in there. They're going to see Queen references in there, and a lot of 80s power ballad music videos. Now, I'm going to talk about another thing that kind of bugged me. Why did Elsa's parents not really mention the spirits to the kingdom, or talk about that Elsa's mom was from the north? Wouldn't they have kind of bridged the two worlds together back in the day when they got married? So that is a little plot hole that I really wanted them to kind of clear up, or just bridge it in a certain way. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my friend Touly and see how he saw the movie.
So to set the stage for my review of the movie here, I want to briefly touch upon Frozen, the first movie, by saying that I didn't watch that film when it came out initially in theaters. I watched it when it came out to, DVD, Blu-ray, what have you. At the time, I was impressed with what I saw because originally I thought that because it was a Disney film, it would revolve its theme around the concept of overcoming a sense of evil with the power of love. And of course, this love normally being between a man and a woman. And so that might have sort of discouraged me initially to go watch the film at the theaters. But when I finally saw it, at home, I like how they threw a curveball there at the end of the film where it wasn't necessarily about the love between, you would have thought, Anna and her soon-to-be husband who turned out to backstab everybody. And not even Kristoff too, but it turned out to be the love between family, between Anna and her sister Elsa. And when I saw that, I like the creativity behind that, the idea of not being too cliche in that retrospect as, we would expect from like a Disney film or any film that has like a princess and a soon-to-be prince or what have you. Because of that, I came to appreciate Frozen a lot more than my initial impression of the film when I saw the trailers. Now, flash forward to today regarding Frozen 2, I tried to keep that same mindset. When I saw the trailer, I was intrigued. I would be honest and say that I wasn't overly excited like some people were, which is fine. It was one of those reactions where I can accept a Frozen 2, being in the works, but did I need one? Not really, because I thought Frozen already did a decent job at concluding the story and the rest is history sort of ending. You can fathom for yourself what happens next to these characters. You could already expect what would happen between Anna and Kristoff, which was a major theme in Frozen 2 that they kept coming back to, especially from Kristoff's perspective because he was trying to propose to Anna. So I was expecting some sort of twist that would allow me to latch onto the film as much as I did the first film. Unfortunately, it didn't quite hit the mark for me. There were interesting concepts. As Sal mentioned, they did briefly mention about the parents. They show a little bit about the parents at the beginning and the significance of the tale that the father told both Anna and Elsa and the song that the mother sang to both of them. They set the stage to what happened later in the movie. At one point, they showed Anna and Elsa finding the ship that apparently their parents were on, and they discovered that their parents weren't sailing in the Southern Sea or whatever, as they came to understand from the first film, that they were actually traveling north to kind of understand Elsa's power. And because of that, they ended up dying, and Elsa became very remorseful of that, and she, teared up because she blamed herself for the death of their parents. And of course, Anna being Anna, she consulted her sister, tried to calm her down. She wanted to be alongside her in this journey to find out the truth about Elsa's power. In doing so, help restore the balance between Arendelle, where they were from, and the Enchanted Forest. The story that they were telling, it wasn't too complex. It was pretty straightforward. Sal did mention some of the songs that were in this movie. For me personally, I thought there were a little too many because from Frozen, I can at least recall most, if not all, of the songs that were in that film versus this one where there were a couple sung by Elsa, maybe a couple sung by Anna. Maybe she had like a duet. So in total, she had more than one song. Olaf had his own, Kristoff had his own. Those songs felt less memorable in that retrospect because there were so many. I did like Into the Unknown and the one that Anna sung towards the end after she lost Olaf and Elsa as tribute to the song, Take the Next Right Step. The theme of the songs sort of matched the dialogue that was leading up to it. I sort of appreciate that they at least set up the song based on the interactions they had with their people. So I know Sal mentioned the song Lost in the Woods that was sung by Kristoff. I do appreciate the nostalgic trip based off like 80 references and stuff, but I think out of all the characters in terms of like the group, Anna, Elsa, Olaf, Kristoff, and Sven, I felt that Kristoff's arc wasn't as compelling because I felt like it was just about him trying to propose to Anna, and there wasn't enough for me to feel sympathy for him when Anna decided to go with Elsa instead of stay with him when they were in the Enchanted Forest. I don't know how I was supposed to feel at that moment when he thought like, oh, Anna chose Elsa instead of me. I mean, they're both sisters. They both love each other, and Anna wants to protect Elsa. So why should I feel bad about that? When he was singing the song, I didn't quite grasp to why he was feeling the way he did, because nothing up to that point transpired between the two to cause a sense of tension. If they were still going to go that route with Kristoff singing like that, I wish there was a scene between Anna and himself, either arguing, or maybe Kristoff met somebody in the Enchanted Forest and was talking to this, female character, and then Anna kind of saw them laughing at each other and it seemed like they were having a good time. And then, Anna either runs off with Elsa then, or maybe, she has a conversation with him afterwards about the interaction that he was having with this new girl. Just something to make me feel like there's tension between the two, so that when Anna actually leaves Kristoff and goes with Elsa, that I feel that there was reason for Kristoff feeling the way he did. Because his arc felt so weak to me, I felt like it was something that they could have just do away with, because in the end, when he proposed to Anna, it just happened. It was like nothing special. He just did it in the company of everybody else, Elsa, Sven, Olaf. I guess if you want to take it from the perspective of, hey, they're family, and he did it in front of people who he felt he should have, that's great. But the emphasis that they were trying to put on this whole proposing thing, I felt like it should have just been something between the two, so that it would have made it that much more special. But other than that, I would say there were two other points that I would have to say about this film that I felt short. I mean, one's not as big as the other, but so I'll mention this one first. It's a couple of transitions that they had in the film. First off, when they were traveling from Arendelle to the Enchanted Forest, felt like the distance between the two areas was great because of the scenes that they were shooting. They showed them like at different areas as they were traveling, Olaf talking the entire way and seemed like he was talking forever, and I felt that sort of distance. Now, my problem with that is when Elsa returns later at the end of the film to save Arendelle, she arrived there very, very quickly. You could make the argument that she was on the horse, and maybe the horse was able to travel extremely fast. Again, having that sense of distance between the two places, I feel like it should have taken Elsa a bit longer, which also affected how Anna communicated with Elsa as well, because Elsa decided to stay in the Enchanted Forest where she felt like she belonged at the end of the film. So the two sisters were quote unquote separated. They still communicate to each other, but through these means of like messages that were carried by the wind element, Gale. Like the messages that they send each other seem to travel so fast that I wasn't convinced of that distance anymore that they showed initially at the beginning of the film when they were traveling from Arendelle to the Enchanted Forest. That's a minor complaint. My bigger complaint, and it comes back to the whole theme of how I like the creative direction that Frozen took, how they were able to melt Anna's frozen state away at the end of the film due to the love that Elsa was pouring onto her. I didn't get that sort of twist that I wanted. I could offer a couple here just to kind of give you guys an idea of where I'm coming from. Like, for example, when they were talking about the ship that the parents were on ended up in the north instead of initially where they thought the ship wrecked in the south, I was thinking to myself, maybe the parents are alive and they somehow stumble across the parents, that they actually didn't die. That would have been a twist that I could appreciate based on how they had set that up. Another thing, the idea that Anna brought to Elsa's attention when they found out that the parents sacrificed their lives in order to find out more about Elsa's power, and that their lives were sacrificed so that Elsa could go on this journey and free the people in the Enchanted Forest and restore this sense of pride back into Arendelle, that the parents' sacrifice allowed their daughter to do this alongside the power that she had. I thought they should have played to this theme as well, where at the end we saw Elsa get frozen because she fell into this cavern where I believe it was just like too cold or something. She ended up freezing, sort of like how Anna froze up in the first film. However, they would have resolved the issue after Elsa frozen up. Let's just, for the argument's sake, Elsa just freezes there and she's no longer a factor for the rest of the film. And then of course that affects everything else because Olaf goes away, because Elsa is no longer there to sort of magically keep Olaf alive, and then Anna has to go on in life being strong, not just for her, but for the people of the Enchanted Forest and the people back in Arendelle. The story ends sort of like that, where Elsa sacrificed her life now for the people of the Enchanted Forest to escape this captive state that they were held in, and then the kingdom of Arendelle gets to prosper thereafter, now under the governing leadership of Anna and Kristoff. And then maybe, a little hint at the end where the frozen Elsa sort of begin to melt. Like, you don't see their entire body melts away, but you get this little tease to sort of give you an idea that, okay, she's alive. Just to give you guys an idea of where I'm coming from when I'm looking for that little extra tidbit that I sort of felt from the first film that I didn't quite feel in this film. And I guess to just wrap things up, I suppose that's why I really liked the song Into the Unknown, because despite how well received Let It Go was, I felt like that song was more about Elsa and how she was preparing to let go or kind of forget who she was and become the person who she was meant to be. Versus Into the Unknown, you can actually use the theme of this song and apply it to Anna, to Elsa, to Olaf, or to Kristoff, to all the characters within this group. If you think about it, they have to sort of, walk into the future not knowing what will happen. At some point or another, they will have to do it. It all relates to their motivation, what they're trying to achieve. For example, Elsa is always trying to protect Anna, like I mentioned earlier, because she loves her sister and that Elsa is always finding herself in danger. But the idea of just letting Elsa go by herself or something, that's the song mentions, Into the Unknown, and Anna not being able to watch over her sister. But she has to accept it. Same thing with Elsa, with her trying to realize her power, realize who she is. She's walking into something that she doesn't know. And then, with Kristoff, his, not to the degree of the two sisters, but his idea of being too scared to propose and probably thinking that Anna's not going to say yes, not certain with, about what's going to happen. And even Olaf, with the idea of him growing up and not understanding all these things that are around him, but maybe someday he will. I think that's why I really gravitate toward that song, because even though Elsa was the one who sang it, I felt like I could relate it to each of those characters. And it means a lot more in that retrospect, because it's just not a song that was sung by Elsa and is about Elsa, but it's a song that you can actually relate to any of those characters that I mentioned. But I would say the movie does a good job at least letting us realize that these characters are going to be okay going forward. And we got a happy ending despite the distance between Anna and Elsa now. But for me, I just wish there was that little extra twist, as I mentioned, where they could have perhaps gone a little dark here. If there was any Disney film out there within the animated realm that could pull off this sort of theme based on how they have set it up, I think, like, other than Toy Story maybe, I thought they could have done it here in Frozen, because how well they established the relationship between Anna and Elsa.
I agree that they should have gone a little darker at the end with your alternative version. I support it. My thing is that whole distance. Also, I agree with it. So they should have included at the end, in a sense that, say, she knows that the dam broke. She needs to get there. She's running. She's using all the spirits, elements, fire, gale, and the water. But still, she can't reach it. So she dives into the water and starts to freeze the water. And then we see the water running towards the kingdom. But at the same time, we see her freezing the water, using herself as a conduit to freeze the internal water, at the same time her freezing herself in the water. So we do see her give her life to save the kingdom, in a sense, by diving into the water. Or, you can relate this Into the Unknown. That would be a perfect bridge to go from Frozen 2, maybe a possible Frozen 3. This way, Anna takes over as being the queen, doesn't change the ending. She'd marry Kristoff, but at the same time, she's still mourning her sister. And there's this hint, like you said, there's like that little brief moment where something changes, and we do see a little bit of the lake around Arendelle starts to thaw, and that gives her hope that Elsa might still be alive. And then she goes off and tells Kristoff, I think Elsa's alive, and that's where you end the movie. So in a sense, you can go dark, but at the same time, at the ending, you can put this little ray of sunshine there. This closes off, and we're waiting for part 3. So I think that would have been a perfect way of ending it, like you said, doing it a little dark, and at the same time show that little brief hope at the end. Okay, so let's talk about the after credit scene. For people who haven't seen it, if you go, stay, there is an after credit scene, past the credits, past the songs and everything. At the end, it's a small little clip of Olaf recapping the whole movie. And if you like how he recapped the story for the Enchanted Forest people, you're gonna like the after credit scene. With that, I'm gonna ask Touly for his final grade of the movie.
I did like the movie, probably not as much as the first one, because like I said, the first one was more creative in how they resolved the ending. In terms of treating Frozen 2 as, a sequel or the next chapter of these characters who I personally am fond of, the film did a good job at that. The story was simple to follow, probably a little too many songs for my taste, but a couple of them were very memorable still. Other than some of the transitions that I mentioned, the pacing was good. Like I said, it was about an hour and 40 minutes, so it just motivated me to just always want to see what happens next to these characters. So I'm glad that I went to go watch it in theaters this time versus how I watched the first one. I think if you liked the first Frozen film, you should be okay with this one as well. I'm going to give this film a 7.5 out of 10.
I think I share the same view as you. If you saw the first one theaters or at home and you liked it, basically you're going to enjoy this. There is some little flaws that do not stand up to the original, but give and take, it's a fairly enjoyable movie, especially if you take kids with you. I'm also going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. So that does it for this review of Frozen 2. Please join us next time when we review Little Joe.
Our aim was to create a plant with a scent that makes its owner happy.
The first mood-lifting antidepressant happy plant.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.